Hello, welcome to the Bentleigh edition of GPTV. It is August 2019. I'm Gary Peer.
I'm Leon Guzenfitter.
You are indeed. You are Mr. Bentley, and it's all happening in and around Bentleigh, Leon.
It is happening, Gary.
What's going on? What's hot? What's happening?
Well, I think we've had the school holidays are over.
Yeah.
Elections over.
Yep.
A few things are in the way.
Yep.
And I can smell spring.
Yep.
I can hear people.
See the flowers just peeping out of the
See
ground.
some flowers, people mowing their lawns, people painting their fences, getting ready for the big real estate spring selling season.
It's a big roundup, isn't it, of what's happening. I mean, let's face it, it's been a very quiet last quarter.
We have,
Not a lot has been on the market. It's been a kind of, would you say, a period of adjustment and understanding of the market? You know, how has things changed in your opinion, especially over the last month?
Well, over last month, I think the number one thing that's happened is, and I referred to it last month's edition, is there's a lot more confidence, and even since then, I felt an even bigger kick in confidence.
There's more momentum, isn't there?
It is, and it's I think if we went back 4, 5, 6 months ago to have more than 2 or 3 bidders at an auction, it was almost celebrating a bit of a rarity.
Yes,
and now we're having multiple auctions with 5 and 6 bidders, and some people not even having a chance to put their hand up.
We are.
And the prices are the same as what they were 6 months ago, or higher. So it's not like they've adjusted the prices down. I think the prices have stayed, and maybe, I think you alluded to last week, maybe there's even been a kick on since the election.
Well, there has. We, on our other GPTV program, we talked about, kind of fleetingly said, has the market gone up by 10%? We got one viewer who actually pounded us for that and said it's a bit deceptive to think and say that. But there are examples of prices that did come up by 10% and did kick up, and in some cases even more. So we're not saying that's across the board, or we're not saying that's on every property, but there is momentum. If you think about it, at the start of the year, late last year, we had auctions with one bidder. Lucky if you had two, like you say.
Good one bidder.
Many with zero.
Yeah.
Clearance rate under 50%, really was around 40. Now we're finding we are getting clearance rates statewide, 70, 75%.
Yep.
And how's our last 2 weekends, eh?
Very well, 100%.
Both
Weeks, can't do much of that.
Never got that at school.
Can we talk about the last 100? We spoke about the last 100 auctions.
Why not? Talk
so
about
we had
it.
last 100 auctions.
You kept the stat. You deserve to
at
talk
Gary
about it.
Peer and Associates, it was 78 was sold at auction or before.
So it's a 78% clearance rate.
At auction or before.
Over the last 100.
16.
I would say, just to butt in, sorry, I'd say that the state average, it's gone up, but it wouldn't be that high. I reckon the state average for the last 100 would probably be about 60.
Yeah, well, let's say the last 1,000, because we're only,
but I'm talking about if you took 100 as an average.
Mid-60s, I would say.
Mid-60s. Go on, sorry. Yeah. So
78 at auction or before, including a week or two after. There's 16 further sales, so we're at 94%. So out of the last 100, that means 6 unsold, 5 are still active, and doing a bit of work on a couple of those, and only one's been withdrawn. So, we just need more stock.
We need more stock, and I guess what it says to the viewers is if you wanted to sell, you've got a 94% chance right now of us being able to get it done for you within that period of time. I'm sure we'll sell some of those other 5 as well, Leon.
Yes.
But let's also talk about what's hot. What are people out for now? If you were to look across the board and say where's most of your inquiry coming, what are they coming for?
I think land's back, Gary. I think land's always the measure. I think that when the market was super hot, anything that had a great land component was just through the roof. Lots of competition, whether it's to live in or to develop. Once things got a bit tighter and people, especially the developers, are unsure on the resale or the financing of their next project, we saw them take a pullback. And now it's back, Gary. The land is just the inquiries, whether it's a development site or a home on a freestanding block, very low supply and a lot of confidence and a lot of demand.
There was some land that was selling probably about 4 to 6 months ago. You'd identified it was going for around 900, 850, 900. Is that still able to be bought for that sort of price?
No, you can't.
Okay.
There was.
So you were right, because you picked that moment in the market.
The southern pockets of East Bentleigh, just east of East Boundary Road, you could have bought a block in the early to mid 8s. That sort of 550 to 600 square metre with an older home. Those are now mid 9s in a moment. So it's moved back quick.
It's moved quickly.
And look, the reason I think for that, Gary, is there's been obviously some interest rate cuts, which is only a small thing, but I guess the changes in legislation with APRA, and in very, very simple terms, speaking to some of our finance guys at Dane and Dan at Aqua, so shout out to them, who do a great job for us.
You need a mortgage broker, they're great.
Give us a call, we'll get you on to them. But in layman's terms, they basically said that the changes that went into effect 2 weeks ago meant that if you could borrow $1 million 3 weeks ago, then after those changes, you can borrow somewhere between 1 and 1.2. But on average, 15% more.
Wow.
And
well, that's massive.
That's a huge.
Buyer, it's massive. And of course, we met buyers that said, "Look, we're frustrated." We met people who are from well-off families, have got secure jobs, have got good situations, backing, and they just couldn't get money. I mean, it was quite extraordinary, and that really did belt the market around a little bit. I did say on our other sister show, the GPTV, which just came out on Tuesday, I said I think there's three things. Firstly, I think vendors have now come to terms with the fact that they're not getting August 2017 prices, or whenever the heat was. So that took some time for that adjustment, for people to come to terms with it. There are buyers who are ready to go now, and the finance is out there. So it's a very, very good combination of things coming together after that pause. Whether things go up again, who knows? They always do over time.
They do.
Whether they go up again in the short time or not, I don't know, but they certainly seem to have recovered.
And would you say that, I mean, I've sort of felt in my sort of 10 years plus in the business, when people have access to the money, they go out and spend it. That's just what happens.
Well,
you know,
I know my wife does, that's for sure.
Hello, Hannah. But the reality is, people get an approval, and then they see that limit. They see the limit, and they aim for that limit, and sometimes even go over that.
And why wouldn't they? I mean, really, at the end of the day, if you can afford, I always say with real estate, if you can afford to go and get the repayments with some interest rate increase, I know we're not seeing that right now. If you can afford it, why wouldn't you? Because if you're going to go and borrow from the bank and you can afford it, I mean, that part that you borrow from the bank is the part that goes up the most, isn't it? Because that's the 90% or 80% that you're borrowing. Your part, you're just having a sort of a peg with a deposit. And the reality is, one of the things that sort of gets lost, and I'm not going to defend the bad practice of the bank, but to villainise banks and lending institutions when they are the institutions that have enabled people, at a cost, of course, to actually build wealth.
Absolutely.
I mean, you've got to think about that too, So everybody was happy to have a go at the banks till they stopped lending money. Then all of a sudden, the banks, were then the villains, So it's crazy.
And in this exact centre last week, we had an evening that we hosted some of our clients, and we had one of the chief economists from the NAB come and speak to us. And
what were their messages?
Well, I mean, the thing that I took out that gives me the greatest amount of confidence is Melbourne is one of still the top handful of cities in the world with the highest percentage of intake of population. So we're taking about 2.5% of our population in every year, which means that's a couple 100,000 people, which means we have to find houses for all those people.
Absolutely.
And over the last 2 years where things have slowed down, obviously there's been less approvals for new builds. So that's sort of the stuff that was approved 4 years ago is sort of finishing now, but there was less approvals done 2 years ago, less stuff being built now, but still more people coming in. And I always, take confidence from that. If more people are coming in, interest rates are at all-time low, and they think one more cut before the end of the year as well. I mean, I think this is the time to buy. And he basically spoke about the fact you can buy an asset as an investor as well. When investors did take a step out, and I'm finding they're stepping back in, you can borrow money and pretty much have a cash positive or cash neutral at worst investment with a capital growth potential for the next 10, 15 years.
And I'm sorry for all those people who were looking forward to getting it abolished, but you can still, there's a bell going off there, you can still negatively gear. That's the bell, the negative gearing bell, that you can still go out there and negatively gear. But anyway, look, it's an interesting situation in terms of how things are moving, what's happened in the area. Let's talk also about townhouses, because it was that there was a glut of townhouses around.
Yes.
You're a bit of a stats man. You like to look at what's on the market, and you came to me, I remember, maybe 4 to 6 months ago and said, have a look at all these townhouses. None of them are moving. There's so many on the market. What's happened with those?
They're all gone. They're all sold. I mean, the bottom line is there's been very few that have gone to rental. They've all sold, and you look at suburbs like East Bentleigh, there's probably 24 sold of a similar style side by side, 2-level, 3 to 4 bedrooms sold every month. And they've pretty much all cleared. And again, I think that confidence with the fact they've sold, developers can buy the land, can get the borrowings, is going to replenish them as well. So,
and you know what? You're not going to see a lot more of them for a while, because a lot of developers sort of pulled their heads in.
They did.
Stopped buying land, stopped developing, didn't want to go through the process. So actually, those people who have bought them might have done a lot better than they thought, because there won't be that many coming through. It'll take a while, and who knows what prices will be like when the next wave of townhouses actually get on the market.
And I'm also
people who are buying land now.
I'm also hearing Glen Eira Council, and shout out to them, are also pretty good at the moment. Developers are saying that there's some councils a lot more tougher to deal with and get things across, and that kind of development more or less is being supported pretty well by the council.
I think people underestimate how much of a stimulus to the economy property is sometimes, and once there's building, there's people in jobs, there's employment, and I know people scream about inappropriate development, and we're not advocating inappropriate development, but when there's development, there's activity, there's jobs, there's immigration, there's so many things going on. And let me assure you, Leon, and our viewers, This is a state that is not going to stop getting people wanting to live here and moving here. They're coming here from overseas, they're coming from Asia, they're coming from other parts of Australia because we've got it all in Melbourne. We could all feel proud. Not just great football teams like the Blues that have won 4 out of the last 6. There's another
And the
little bell
Bombers,
goes off.
7 out of 8.
And the Bombers, so there you
Fire,
go.
Gary.
We get a few little moments to have a brag. We haven't been able to do that, either of us, much lately. But we get to have that, not just because of footy, but because of all of the wonderful things Melbourne has to offer. And the more you travel, and I go away a bit, the more I come back over that Baltic Bridge, looking at the city, thinking this is the best place in the world.
And we have lots of jobs, Gary. That's really what they're here
hey?
for. Not the footy teams. They're here for jobs, and we
Exactly
have a lot of that.
We do have a lot of jobs, and we've got a lot of fantastic things, schools, transport, restaurants, shopping. Don't get me started. Let's move on to some of the stuff that we have sold, Leon, because I know we had a very popular sale in Hill Street.
Yes, that's right. Lior and Aviv handled that sale beautifully. A near new townhouse that was sold just yesterday. For $776,000.
There you go.
And also a bit more activity in that street where Aviv has found some buyers and taken it to something that's still under construction. So that's something that we're moving into a lot more of that project marketing space. And there's just a big appetite from both buyers and developers. So a good result there in Hill Street a couple of times, actually.
Tell us about Werona Street, because I think I did the auction at the back unit there.
We did, and that's probably a sign of the market, you know, that, you know, we had the back unit, it was passed in, and we did sell it for the price that we were seeking, probably 3 or 4 weeks after the auction. And then the middle one, the builder developer wasn't sure to rent out or to keep, gave us a short period of time to bring some people through, and actually sold the middle one, which, you know, out of 3, people usually go for the back one or the front one first. The middle one, sometimes we're not sure. I actually thought the middle one was probably, you know, as good, if not better. We actually sold the middle one with no marketing for almost 10% more.
There you go.
In about a 6-week turnaround. So,
there you go,
again, a sign of more confidence, less stock. A real life example there.
We've got some interesting things coming up, Leon. We've got a property in Valkstone Street where the Valkstone Primary School is, if I'm not mistaken. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, it's probably the best house.
It's up on the screen behind us now. Talked about it.
It's probably the best house in the McKinnon Secondary School zone and the Valkstone Primary School zone. But it's a very both those zones are very much in demand by parents. If you buy this house and you have a child that's between the age of 0 and 5, you know, you can educate them within walking distance for the next 15 years. So a very convenient location. New house. Again, the photos will be behind us on the screen. Tennis court. I wish I had a tennis court. Swimming pool. A genuine 5-bedroom house. And, you know, it's almost brand new and probably the best offering in the school zone as we speak.
Talking about homes with pools and coming into the warmer months, I got to tell you, I love the house I've got in Coronation Street, which is a name of a series, an English series, Coronation Street. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Right, before my time.
One of the longest running series ever on television, Coronation Street. You know, but anyway, let's not talk about the television. I am there, but there will be some viewers that know. I'll talk about the address and the home. This is a well-positioned home, and I've got to say I love the feel of it. And it's on the screen now. We're actually in it, in Coronation Street, Brighton, East Brighton. Tell us about this property, Leon.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful home. If you look at the facade, if you get it hopefully on the screen behind, it's a really nice, pretty facade. The owners have been there for 30 years almost, which is longer than we'd like, but they are finally giving us the opportunity to sell it. They're selfish
staying that long.
And, you know, that's also in a very good, very highly desired primary school zoning, which is Gardenvale. You can walk to Gardenvale Primary and Brighton Secondary School, which if you've driven past Brighton Secondary, it's been completely rebuilt, looks fantastic.
Was that where they shot that show, what was that, Chris Lilly?
Yes, it was.
What was it called? I can't remember the name of the show.
Again, I don't watch much TV.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, so a really pretty home and very entry level for a freestanding home.
Summer Heights High, that was it. Go on. Yeah.
I'm amazed at your wealth of knowledge, Gary. You must watch a lot of TV.
Not enough, but go on.
I hate to think what happens if you discover Netflix. You just we'll never see.
My daughter's pushing me to do that, but go on.
But a really beautiful home and north-facing yard. Again, I find that north-facing is really hard to find.
Fantastic, it is hard.
Over
only 1 in 4.
That's right. Over 600 square metres of land and a really well-kept, well-presented home and has been popular thus far. Auction is on the 10th of August.
Tell you what I love. I love now, in the area, that people are underestimating. I love Martin Street.
It's fantastic.
How hot is Martin Street? You know, growing up in the area, I used to ride my bike around Martin Street and all the area. Martin Street was a sleepy, of course. But Martin Street was a sleepy hollow. There's a few, you know, little sort of rundown stores. Now it is a humming, cosmopolitan, buzzing strip. Great restaurants, great shops, beautiful homes in and around it. Amazing street. If you
And
haven't
a
been
train
there lately,
station
go and check it out. Yeah.
as well. Obviously, Gardenvale
Yep.
Station's located there, and
Absolutely.
again, I think a lot of the wealth of different suburbs are based around their shopping strips and
Indeed.
their ability to get to a train and into the city quickly.
Check out Martin Street. Do a bit of a profile on that. Thomas Street. We've got a fantastic town residence going up there.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that one?
Yeah,
We've now got it here on the screen. We're in it.
167B, so we've sold 167A, and
Yep.
Glenn did a great job in selling that one. But
did.
again, a brand new 4-bedroom town residence.
Stunning property, isn't it?
I mean, it's just you walk through it and it's been beautifully finished, and it's got a very smart floor plan. So it's not a carbon copy of a lot of other ones. It's been sort of architecturally planned
quite
out.
bespoke, isn't it? Yeah.
It's very bespoke,
Yeah.
and a really fantastic location. We've had a lot of sales on Thomas Street. I was talking to my team.
Yeah.
We're
the Thomas Street experts.
We are the Thomas
We
Street
are.
experts.
Including probably the best house on Thomas Street, which is on the corner there of Hopkins.
Hopkins.
Probably the best house that's been sold, maybe even ever. On
And that
Thomas
whole
Street, yeah.
triangle, Gary, we love that
Yeah,
triangle
we
of
do.
East Brighton between Thomas Street and Nepean Highway down to where Nepean Highway meets Thomas Street, again in that sort of triangle around that Gardenvale Primary
Yep,
School zone.
absolutely.
We do so much business there now, and can I tell you, it's an easy place to sell real estate. Whenever we get a listing in that patch,
We just
know there's a lot of buyer demand.
It's easy for us because we know how to tap in and sell the benefits, and we have a good database of people.
That's
wanting
what
to
I was
buy that.
saying.
That's what you meant.
Yeah.
Let's finish off, Leon, in Foster Street because that's another great offering.
That's right, and we have spoken about this property before, and we're
Yeah.
very close to selling it now. So hopefully, by the time this is done, the
You just
property
see
has
the
been
sold figure.
sold. But we
Yeah.
do have an auction coming up there if it's not sold. But like I alluded to last time, but that's really, if you haven't seen this property, 16 Foster Street, McKinnon. In my opinion, that's the future of how my kids are going to live. So my kids are little, 1 and 3.
Yep.
When they're looking to buy their house in 20, 25 years, I believe a lot of us will be living that way in fantastic developments
Now,
like
tell
that.
me, if you're a buyer and you see a property having its second auction, because we
Yep.
had last weekend in North Corfu and Corinna Crescent, we had
Yep.
a second auction and it did get sold.
Yes.
What does that mean to a buyer, you think, usually?
Well, probably, I mean, I would think if I
Because
was...
some buyers might say, oh, that play, they couldn't sell that, that's, why would I want to go there?
Yeah, I think as a buyer, knowing the market, I think it's an opportunity. I think often that if a property hasn't sold at its first auction, quite often it's then repriced and auctioned off again.
Which is the case now, isn't it, on Foster Street?
Exactly
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So I think that every property is good or bad depending on the price that's put out there. So if you see a property that's been up for auction before and up again, what it probably means to the buyer is it's probably dropped 10% in price. Often that's usually, and sometimes even greater, and an opportunity to come in and maybe buy it without as much sort of hump as the first time. Like, the second auction usually gets it done, but maybe it hasn't had the build up and eruption of bidders as sometimes the first one did.
I think the message is that the vendor's ready to meet the market, and
that's true.
That's a great sign. We've had probably 20 or 30. I don't know the numbers somewhere.
I think
around.
since the market started going back, I think over 50 properties we've had scheduled
and
for a
I think
second auction.
every one of them has been sold. I think we found one,
I think
but
there's one that didn't sell,
every single one of them has pretty much been sold. So that is certainly a message. There's a bell that's gone off right there. If you see a second auction, don't be shy to come along and check it out. We're now in August. We're now listing for spring.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting spring. Predictions quickly.
I think that if the stock levels remain anything like what they are now, we're going to have a really, really strong spring.
Feels that way,
if the stock levels come up a little bit more, most campaigns now, we're meeting 100 buys. That's probably the average campaign, whereas a year ago it was probably 40 to 50, which means that if we did double the stock, I still think we'd have more than enough buys for everything. So I think a really good spring coming up, and just the fact that people can borrow more money and the confidence is there, and what's gone is that the market's about to fall off the cliff. That's gone. That sentiment is gone. I'm looking forward to spring. I think it's going to be good.
I don't always agree with you. I do mostly, and this time I do 100%, Leon. I agree. It's a good summary of the market, and that's what's going on in the world of real estate in August 2019 in and around Bentleigh and all of the surrounding suburbs. That's a big wrap on the Bentleigh Report. I'm Gary Peer.
I'm Leon Guzenfitter.
We'll see you next month. Cheers.
Bye.